and welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Alexandra.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I have been sucked into a Narnia-esque world with no way of going home, except with something to do with writing.
So to charter our paths right back to that wardrobe, we are issuing a challenge. Each week you sit down and write a complete short story using 3 or 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read a story, we talk about what we learned in reading it, and then we talk about stories sent in by you wonderful listeners.
Exactamundo. We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A Doof Media Production. I'm in that weird, state where, you're really tired, but you're, pushing a bit of energy forward and stuff. So that's where I'm at right now.
So you are being pulled both ways.
That's right.
In limbo, basically.
Yeah. I saw a post on Twitter today that was it was a diagram of a girl wearing a sweater and then a shirt underneath the sweater, right? But the shirt, it was a long sleeve shirt, was bunched up all the way up to her shoulder, right? And it was captioned, this is what uncomfortable is, or something, right? It was this diagram depicts uncomfortable. And I was this is I tweeted this. This is, so some of you already got the first look at this. That's just how it feels being in my flesh prison all the time. And I really do mean it. I feel like I need to tear off all of my skin.
Or maybe just tear off one layer.
Yeah, so but a thick
really
layer.
Show what's on the inside. Yeah,
a layer thick enough that I could wear it as clothing if I wanted to.
Okay, so kind of like Hannibal Lecter, but a little
bit, but it's my own. It's my own flesh. It's my own flesh.
Yeah. So it's legal.
When you watched Attack on Titan and the colossal Titan showed up, who doesn't have skin, were you envious of him for not having skin?
When I saw that, the only thing that I could really think about is, damn, he is tall, he is thick, and he is double cheeked up. Do you remember one of those first shots when he shows up for the first time, and then it cuts to outside of the wall with the Titans running up? He was cheeks, man.
I don't know though.
It was crazy.
Maybe yes, but they are very much like male cheeks, they're very thin.
Yeah.
They were extensive, sure, but they were rectangular shaped. They were 2 rectangles.
Which I always found that weird. How that's just how men butts come.
I mean, that's
a size smaller.
Sorry, you said men's butts come, and I was. I'm really tired. I'm sorry, y'all.
We are children. It's okay.
So, there's another little update thing. So, I'm saying this is a joke. No one sent me to jail, but so I stole some nail polish, right? And
nice.
It's the perfect color, and I put it on, and I feel maybe it's just because my brain is unusually empty, but I've just been staring at it way too much. I was in the shower, right? And it's this turquoise metallic color, a little bit green, a little bit blue. And the water was beating on it, and it made it kind of look purple. And I literally I spent probably at least 10 minutes of the shower just looking at my nails and changing the light that they were under, and getting water on them and stuff. I spent a while doing that. And it was weird.
Hey, you have to make sure it's the right shade. I get it.
It looks really good, and I can't stop looking at it. I'm just saying, if I was time teleported back in time, I could pull off being royalty or some sort of demigod just from my nails. I could.
Really?
I could be hey, I would have to hide my hands, because otherwise people are going to think I'm demons if I walk into town, right? But until I go to the castle, and then I pull out my hands, I'm hey, look, I'm divine. Let me into your crib. Give me some din din. from a foreign land.
Have you played or seen footage from Hades?
No. Well, a little bit.
Okay. You look like you could be a character from Hades.
Oh, that's a huge compliment. Thank you.
100%. Maybe like a God, I'm trying to remember the names. Granted, I still haven't played it. I have followed the game since it was first announced because I love Supergiant games. But I still haven't played it yet. But I would say you're maybe like a Athena, maybe.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, enough of that. Let's talk about this week's words.
That's right, and this is the first time in a while where we're really actually talking about the words themselves. So, because I wrote a story this week.
And I'm so excited to read it. But first, this week's words were brick, herb, penny, and equipped.
Hot.
Mm-hmm. And also, the challenge was tracing, which basically meant we got a great host of stories this week where these writers basically copied other more famous writers' works and maybe took it into their own style.
Makes it less literary. Sounds like just copying. Yeah, so we did the challenge was to trace, which was to take another person's to plagiarize, not really, to write down someone else's work, a scene you liked, and then to try to emulate that voice that you just practiced by writing it down. So I did that actually. So I wrote a story this week. I don't feel like it's my best story, but considering of how depressed I've been the past couple of months, I don't think it's too bad. And I haven't written it in many months, so hopefully I just stick to it.
You only have 30 minutes, right? So.
Yeah. So getting back into the swing of it, I guess. But I did do the tracing challenge thingy.
Who'd you trace?
I traced the first couple of pages from Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. So I had some others book. I was thinking of looking at. In fact, I really want to trace Ursula K. Le Guin, but I wasn't able to get my hands on a copy of her works before the deadline. Perhaps I'll do it later. But she has like a really wonderful poetic voice that I remember really enjoying. And it's not like too over the top either, like a certain Eldritch abomination we know of. So I do really want to emulate her stuff, but just for a distinctive writing style, I went for Neil Stephenson. And you can read that first chapter of Snow Crash, and I actually highly recommend it just because it's so distinctive, and it's the best chapter of the book. You can look it up online.
The most disappointing part about the entire book, but go on.
It's not that bad. The rest of it.
Listen, I love the book. I still haven't finished it because I have a huge problem with just not finishing books. But I have gotten about halfway through, and it's good. It's just that.
But it's not as good as that first chapter.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So, I do recommend y'all read that, but I did write the first couple of pages, and then I tried to emulate it. I think I came somewhat close to at least emulating the tone, if not the voice. I think if I was maybe feeling a little bit, more put together and less depressed, maybe I would get closer. But also I was noticing, so Snow Crash, you know what, let me just read like a little excerpt from it in a second. So this is like paragraph 5 and 6 or something. The Deliberator's car has enough potential energy packed into its batteries to fire a pound of bacon into the asteroid belt. Unlike a bimbo box or bird beater, the Deliberator's car unloads that power through gaping, gleaming, polished sphincters. When the Deliberator puts the hammer down, shit happens. You want to talk contact patches? Your car's tires have tiny contact patches. Talk to the asphalt in 4 places the size of your tongue. The Deliberator's car has big, sticky tires with contact patches the size of a fat lady's thighs. The Deliberator's in touch with the road, starts like a bad day, stops in a peseta. Why is the delivery so equipped? Because people rely on him. He's a role model. This is America. People do whatever the fuck they feel like doing. You got a problem with that? Because they have a right to. And because they have guns and no one can fucking stop them. As a result, this country has one of the worst economies of the world. When it gets down to it, talking trade balances here. Once we've brain-drained all our technology into other countries, once things have evened out, they're making cars in Bolivia and microwave ovens in Tajikistan and selling them here. Once our edges and natural resources are made irrelevant by giant Hong Kong ships and dirigibles that can ship North Dakota all the way to New Zealand for a nickel. Once the invisible hand has taken all those historical inequities and smeared them out into a broad global layer of what a Pakistani brickmaker would consider to be prosperity. You know what? There's only 4 things we do better than anyone else. Music, movies, microcode, software, high-speed pizza delivery. So,
it is amazing.
Yeah, it's a very...
That voice is so great.
I know, right? And it's so, like, aggressive, and it's so catching. So I did not come close to...
comical, too, yeah.
Yeah, it's very, what's the word? Not derisive. Okay, I found the word. The word is irreverent. So it's a very irreverent tone where it's like, fuck your expectations. We're talking how we want to talk, and we're using a lot of these like metaphors and figurative language that are like very literal and very like rude, you know.
I wonder when Neil Stephenson was writing this, was it the 90s? Because for some reason, just like listening to you reading it and then also reading it for myself, it feels very like sort of 90s chic, and it's sort of like grungy tones.
I can see the connections there, and you know there's plenty of other things I compare it to, like the opening of Fight Club. Where it's just kind of like a montage of like all the things that make the modern day. I think very much suits this style. Yeah. But yeah, so there's plenty of things that you can compare it to.
I think it was like the first scene of The Wolf of Wall Street.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
one of those things.
Yeah, it's a very distinctive style. I tried to emulate a little bit. I don't think I really... One thing I was not doing very well on was those metaphors that are just spit out that are very, very striking. And I don't think I came close to describing those. And I wonder how much of it is like, Neil Stephenson probably didn't come up with all of these on the spot, right? Was probably thinking about a lot of these. Maybe was writing down phrases like... contact patches the size of a fat lady's thighs,
Honestly, he probably finished the whole book before even adding some of those lines. Like,
that's probably true. Some of those, I'm sure,
could have been like second or like third draft stuff. So
yeah, but on the other hand, I also was very, very tired. So
true.
Yeah, so that puts a limit on your creativity. But anyway, so I tried to emulate the tone a little bit. And I guess we'll see how well it went.
Exactly. Let's get on into it.
I guess I'll call the story Narnia Gone Wrong. Let me take a sip of water. Barbara Lee is a villain, and she likes it that way. She rules 8 kingdoms across this continent and lets rebellions flare up just to have something to do. Because that's what happens when you drop a 12-year-old with a hankering for science and efficiency in a world where the creators have conveniently overlooked the concepts of conservation of matter and energy. She'd always had a distaste for morals, found them nothing but a way to keep the stupid satisfied. If she had to share on the playground, best to wander off to the forest. If they took her favorite toys, better to make her favorite toys something they wouldn't appreciate. Chemistry, mathematics, and brain games the adults have to squint at. That's why she's here, after all, dropped into a fantastical world with the struggle of good and evil, happy to make her the main character if only she can learn a lesson. Oh, and Barbara learned some lessons all right. Learned that saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal still make gunpowder, something a lot easier and faster when those kobold pests in the forest can be stressed into excreting the components, milked like assembly line factory cows, complete with a horror only witnessed in aggressively vegan R-rated documentaries playing at 2 a.m. Little Lee shucked off her little companions and talked to the greedy mayor, one of her intended first opponents, into taking up some economic propositions. Of course, he didn't trust her and wanted to exploit her, but when the 12-year-old with the talking sword of the hero of time is telling you how to make a quick buck, well, you might drop a penny or two. It didn't take long for the 12, soon 13-year-old terror to talk her way up to the king's advisor, pulling herself off as a fabled centuries-old wizard in a child's body. Not so tough when stranger things have happened in a broken magical world. With a few whispered nudges and secrets, the kingdom of Endaria was marching off plate-armed soldiers equipped with rifles that could pop the heart of a dragon from 600 paces. That's all irrelevant, though. History has been reduced to ash like a cigarette burned, filter and all. Little Lee exploited, tricked, twisted, and terrified both allies and enemies, taking all those gifts that were supposed to be used at essential moments on her hero's journey and using them to multiply the power she had. Lee took notes from books she read, from Orwell, creating a world that would have spawned a whole forest of terrible YA dystopian copycats. The past doesn't exist anymore, especially when memory wiping magic can be used like whiteout, a generation's memory bleached like so many loads of wet laundry. She's a villain, all right, Queen of Terror, reducing the great creature of darkness from a bygone age into a hamster on a generator wheel, poked at by little magic lasers held by playing little children. Once you attach the word power to friendship, it becomes just another thing to harvest. And harvest she does, pairs up kids, pits them against each other. Nothing like hating your neighbor across the street to be besties with the one next door. Then she hooks them up to magical electrodes. Sucks them dry of all that friend power they've got. Useful thing, that. Powers the lights, tanks, jacuzzi. Great spice on roast chicken, too. The strong take from the weak, and the weak don't really exist, has been her view. After all, this isn't her world, except in the sense that she owns it. Drop a kid in the sandbox with the castle's pre-built, and it's only a matter of time before they start kicking things over. So, she's here now. Tip-top of the tallest tower, made from bricks taken from every little town and farmstead that sent out a poor schmuck with a pitchfork. That's the kind of symbology she likes. Dress of black scales, crown of gold skulls. She keeps a storm live and crackling above her, for the ambiance. Crushing enemies and weeping fireballs makes her feel like a kid again, splashing through puddles. Cute. Off in the distance, across the continent, some 10-year-old just lost their parents to her raiders, and has vowed revenge and fury, alongside with her talking dog. Through a crystal ball clearer than the rich tech kid's 4K plasma, Barbara Lee can see the kid's determined face and clenched fist. She smiles, knowing that in just a couple years, she'll have a new toy to kick around. She looks behind her, sees that small little gate, the gold rim dim under the lightning like an LED in sunlight. This being the only way back to her old world. Technically, she's done here. Did all the stuff she was supposed to do, killing dragons or whatever, though it probably wasn't supposed to be done with arcane grenades and suicide goblins. The gate's supposed to be her way back, but it's empty right now, refusing to do anything, like God being asked to show a sign. She supposes she's probably got to learn her lesson before she goes. Can't really remember what she was up to before she got sucked into a Tolkien C.S. Lewis knockoff, but it was probably something kids do, telling her brother she hates him or something. Facing a crying sky and a world getting more boring with every kick at the castles, Barbara Lee shrugs. She'll figure it out eventually. Plenty of other things to take the magic out of before then.
So honestly, I have no clue what you were talking about, saying that this was the worst thing that you've written for do the right thing. I mean,
okay, I did go that
I really
far,
dig this.
but
okay, well, yeah, but I mean, yeah, this is like really good, and I mean, after you, of course, reading the what you were trying to copy, I can totally see it. I mean, you nailed the sort of like twist turny way that the voice of Snow Crash is, and you really did match that really well. And I mean, also, I think as you continue down, we are getting more and more of this sort of queen and the story, and then also the like reasons why this main character is sort of stuck in this place. And I love how this story kind of like, it's kind of meta, you know, because you are talking about these like other dystopian novels. You are talking about all of the knockoffs. You were talking about basically Lion Witch and the wardrobe and like Tolkien. So I don't know. I just think that this is a really good piece that, I don't know. I think if this were to be like a longer piece, this voice would have worked a lot better, because I do feel for it to be a short story. We aren't really going anywhere, but at the same time, you really did hit this voice really well, and you did create a really enjoyable voice to read that also does seem very much so like you. So yeah, really great. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, so I definitely agree that there's not much of like a story or plot or anything being done here, like at all.
I mean, really,
very...
it feels like you are setting the stage for this whole thing, you know?
Yeah, basically, I started writing, and then like timer was basically done, and I was like, okay, I'll just put a conclusion of like her looking at the exit and deciding not to go or something. There's definitely a lot more that I would have done, and like there's faint glimmers of themes, something about like her not learning her lesson or something, and whatever that lesson is. But yeah, so in the end, I probably, to view this more positively, the best thing I could do is probably just look at this as like that experiment in voice and not much more. Because it's just not a standalone short story. The emulating the voice was really fun.
And I mean, on that, I guess I do have a few questions, because I mean, I didn't do this challenge this week. So, I mean, when you did go into trying to trace the voice of Snowcrest, what were the key things that you really like stuck to as you were writing this?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like a lot of it is not stuff I articulated as I wrote. It was just stuff like I finished copying down like 3 pages, not 3 pages of reading, more like just 3 pages of in my big handwriting in my journal thingy. But I copied down a couple pages and just kind of try to continue off of that voice as if it was still going. And the things that I can identify now were a bit of like, I don't know if alliteration is actually accurate, but it felt that way. Like a lot of just like catchy saying things. A lot of metaphors, especially those relating to technology or like stuff that just does not fit any sort of like drama, right? That irreverent tone of like breaking all of the expectations, not like expectations out of writing, but like the point of the story is to break the original expectations. Not that this like really sets those up. It's just it starts off from a point of like they're already broken. But
and I mean, also I noticed that you did kind of go into the reasoning in a lot of different people. Like I know when you were talking about the like evil deeds that the queen did, it reminded me a lot of like Neil Stevenson talking about the Liberator, you know, like he does this, but I mean it ain't really like that. He is doing this because of this and of that. And I mean, I like really saw that sort of connection there, and it read very similarly.
That's definitely was intentional. Of like when I started off, I was like, okay, well, I need to focus this on like a character in the same, because that's what, you know, if I copied another section of the book that was more just about the world and not about the Deliberator, I would have done so differently. But since I traced the part that I traced was basically exclusively about talking about a single character and making them out to be that irreverent badass thing in an unexpected way.
And also, I mean, I think it was really smart of you to choose to trace something that is so outside of your normal style, or like any style that I've really seen. And I think, that's only like, that can only make you stronger as a writer, because you've kind of seen the like other side of what prose can be, and like how that different form of prose can still be as effective as what we would call normal prose,
Thanks. Yeah, so I definitely, when I was thinking of like, what do I want to like affect my own writing, I was thinking I definitely want to be more poetic, and this is not that. Or although, I mean, in some ways it kind of is, but not at all.
I would say it's more figurative.
It does use a lot of figurative language, but it's definitely not like a beautiful, like this tone you don't describe like a beautiful forest in, like you don't describe a garden with this voice.
Though I would love to see that.
So I was wanting to like I said before, emulate Ursula K. Le Guin, but one thing I was worried about as well as I was getting ready to do that was that like Ursula K. Le Guin and other, like nice and poetic writers, a lot of them, it's like the way that I remember Ursula K. Le Guin writing is poetic, but not in a way where like every sentence is like it's a sort of tone and feeling that appears over time rather than like any specific section, like
okay.
Every
so
sentence is
like
very
it's fluffy, or
no, it's like every sentence is very capital G good, and then after you read like a couple pages you're like enamored and you adore it, right? Rather than with like with this part of Snowcrash, which is every single sentence is like a zinger,
I see. So it's not really like a hit, it's more like a sting, I guess. Because,
Perhaps.
I feel when you are reading Snow Crash, as soon as you start reading, you are like hit with this really great style, this like really great writing. Where I'm guessing with this other author, it's more of a slow burn. Like it is written well, but by the like first page is when you kind of like sit back and say, "Damn, this person's really spitting,"
Yeah, it's like after you get a couple pages, you're like, wow, this is a really beautiful book, and like this is it's beautiful is what it is what I'm trying to say. And there's other authors that would be somewhat similar. I was just basically for a like longer term adjustment of my prose, I definitely want to go like the Le Guin route and trace other like poetic authors and stuff. But I also felt like just for the practice of like trying out different voices and stuff, doing one as distinctive as possible was probably a good idea.
Yeah, and it was a great choice. So I guess after writing this and tracing all of that jazz, is there anything that you've really learned from it? What would you do what would you do differently on a second try?
I definitely want to continue doing this tracing thing and do it to a bunch of other authors. One little challenge thingy I was doing here was, it was extremely minor, but I was thinking if I'm going to do Le Guin, who I know more for like a fantasy book, or A Wizard of Earthsea, and Stevenson, which is a sci-fi book, to switch the settings, I thought would be fun. To use Stevenson really to nice. Describe this fantasy setting, and then maybe Le Guin I'll do a cyberpunk kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I would definitely
or something
that.
of the sort. I definitely it was good to learn the stuff. It was really good to practice using these metaphors. And to just like insert this very like aggressive, irreverent tone. So I really I basically got as pretty much as much as I thought I would get out of tracing as before I went into it.
All right, cool.
So I think definitely it's something worth doing, and I'll probably do it again.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, hey, you brought us a really well-written piece that I enjoyed listening to. So thank you so much for bringing that in.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And all right, I guess it's time to roll on into our listener submitted story section. Thank you so much to everyone who did submit a story. Without y'all, this podcast would be a lot shorter, but a lot more boring and not as fun. So, as we have said previously, all of these stories deal with tracing. So I am really eager to see who all of our submissions traced, and kind of how they took that style of writing that they did trace and basically make their own of it. So the stories we are going to be reading from this week are by Words on the Wind, Sarah Penguin, Captain Rhino, and Nipotin.
That's right. Who are we starting off with?
We are starting off with Words on the Wind with an untitled short story
About the Baron Ulfric Hillinger von Rosenberg. So this story, I don't know what this is traced off of. It's Poe, right? Yes.
The Mask of the Red Death.
Right, I understand, yes.
I think that's by...
It's Poe. Though they say Poe at the end, so okay. I assume. Yeah, it's from poemuseum.org. That's the link. Okay. So probably a work of Edgar Allan Poe.
Probably.
Anyway, so this is a story about Baron Ulfric, who is a modern day baron, and he's super rich, and he's had a long family history of people dying, and so everyone kind of assumes that he is he's really weird and eccentric because of how sad his life has been. And after his parents died, he sort of became that sort of like distant but also like laughing tone that people that are very much on edge are, right, when they laugh in the face of something horrible happening. So that's the background, and then here we move into the event of the story is, which is when the plague hits, which I assume is basically the coronavirus or something worse. So he is known to be doing some like pretty irreverent things, like throwing a herd immunity party and other things, just kind of being a pretty huge asshole, not taking things seriously. But his last thing that he does is he has outfitted this villa to be basically a disaster bunker for him, that has tons of food and it's a rich person's survival bunker. And as this final thing, he throws a Halloween party, which will basically also be a test for other rich people to see who will be allowed to live with him in his bunker for the rest of their days. But the theme for the Halloween party is an asylum, complete with shock equipment and chains on the walls. So very much like old asylum, like as is mentioned, like Bethlehem and stuff. And so everyone shows up dressed as if they are supposed to belong in a asylum. And then they find out that the syringes were filled with all too real drugs. The shackles were real and the equipment very much functional. So kind of the implication that they're going to be staying in there and the Baron is just going to torture them for the rest of the apocalypse.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I really dug this story. Reading it, I can definitely see a lot of Poe-isms in the prose. I love how a lot of these sort of longer sentences kind of unfold, and it really is sort of grabbing that sort of slow but deliberate tone that you get from a lot of Poe's works. And I mean, going into the story itself, I loved how this Baron was being characterized. I really did like the addition of this plague, and I liked seeing not only how people react, but sort of how the Baron sees it in his own eyes. And I mean, overall, I think it is a really solid story that leaves us in this very concerning place. So overall, really great job.
Yeah, the one thing I'm going to point out is I think there is a bit of passive voice in here that I think to if you're emulating Poe and others, I think having more like active verbs and things like that to make it sound a little bit more present, I think would be the way to do that. So like there's some phrases like and so it was not a surprise to anyone when the plague hit, and he continued his activities as normal. So that's sort of a more passive phrasing, as well as like in come they did, the riches of the upper crust. You know what? Never mind. I'm going to cut that because I'm
no,
not
that was
no,
good.
I'm not. Well, I'm not confident enough that it's actually passive voice. That I'm actually.
But it is passive voice.
Right. Is it though?
Yeah. Okay. So the line you are talking about is from and so it was not a surprise to anyone when the plague hit, and he continued his activities as normal. I would say that is passive voice.
Okay, I'm going to say it again, but more confidently then.
Yes, confidence is key.
So the thing I would point out here for improvement would be to change some of the use of passive voice into a more active voice. So there's multiple like phrases in here that are more subdued because of that passive voice, and changing them to active would be make them more like present. And most of them are like phrases that, you know, sound good usually, but when there's a lot of them, the passive voice definitely adds up. So just to take a couple, so like and so it was not a surprise to anyone when the plague hit, and he continued with his activities as normal. The sort of like not leading with the like the noun and verb there makes it less punchy and stuff. No expense would be spared is passive voice, right? It's like who's not sparing the expense, right?
Yeah.
And some other stuff.
If one of your lines sort of has a like wind up before it gets to the purpose of that line, I think it is worth kind of looking at that line for a second time.
Yeah, to restructure it. Like no expense would be spared is like an extremely like well known and good you know, phrase. It's just I think when it's paired with a lot of the passive voice, it does make it more slower and subdued than it would be otherwise. So but I really like the story, and I like the situation that's been set up here. I'm just pointing out something that would be I think good to look at.
Definitely. But really great job, Words on the Wind. And up next is Sarah Penguin with Ace Tea and Cake,
which is a tracing of Emily Skrutsky, is how I think that's pronounced. It's a new author. I did a Google, so maybe I'll read them one day. So Jamie and what's her name?
Let me see.
The main character. Hey, bro, I'm recording. He's in the hall. Bastard.
Oh, their name is My Little Rope Bunny.
Oh, okay, got it. Rope Bunny. I'll just refer to them as Rope Bunny.
Yeah.
No, I'll just say main character.
Yeah.
So the main character is in their kitchen with their girlfriend. After having made a big confession. We don't know what it is immediately, but we set the scene first. Jamie, the girlfriend, is offering a witch's herbal brew to heal her emotional pain. It's just tea, but it's a sweet little gesture, and we get a little bit of what the relationship is like, and it's quite cute. But the main character is really worried, and we can very much see and feel her emotions as she asks, "Are you going to leave me?" And her girlfriend reassures her and says it's fine. And then they talk, and slowly we understand what the confession was. Is that the main character confessed that they're asexual. And part of that is that worries him so much is, Jamie asks, so do you find me sexually attractive? And of course, main character said can't answer that affirmatively, and that makes him feel wrong and ashamed and so much else. And yeah, we get a lot of their worry and stuff. And of course they go through the like classic terrible thoughts of like maybe you can see someone else and stuff. Which of course neither of them actually really want that. But in the end, Jamie does succeed in reassuring her, and they come to a compromise of engaging in BDSM in a wholesome, intimate way. Nice, and it's very, very cute. I liked it a lot.
Very, yeah. And I mean, overall, I think it's just a really strong story. It stays within this one moment, and we are really able to, through this voice, get inside of the main character's head, along with getting a greater understanding of this sort of relationship. And I mean, through this you can really tell the like love that these two characters do share for each other, which is a really great feat, given how short this story really is. I mean, yeah, overall I think it is, as you said, really cute. I think it is just really pointing towards possible complications that can happen within a relationship, but it is sort of taken in this way that I'm not really expecting. It is a lot more loving that I'm used to seeing in many works that kind of take place between two people.
Yeah, I really like the story, Sarah Penguin. I think you did a wonderful job here portraying the relationship with these two characters. So the thing I would suggest, not so much as a criticism, but just a suggestion, is to just add some more like metaphors and stuff in here. In this little selection, there's only like one or two I can see in here, but I think they're very effective, talking about how the main character in this selection by Emily Skritsky talks about how her story is a hurricane, and here with Swift is just the eye, and some other things. So yeah, adding in a metaphor or two I think would do really well in colorizing the language and stuff. But everything in here is really well done, and yeah, I very much like the story.
Yeah, definitely. Well, all right. Thank you so much to Sarah Penguin. And up next is Captain Rhino with Locke.
So this is a fanfic, and not so much a tracing, but Captain Rhino just finished reading The Black Company by Glenn Cook, which is a story covered by the Doofcast, by the way, nice. By the Doof Book Club. If you ever want to go back and listen to that, anyone who's reading, and it's a really good book as well. But anyway. So this is not Captain Rhino admits that they didn't copy anything down, but they have read a bunch of the words, so it's fresh on their mind. And I think they did a pretty decent job of emulating the tone and voice here. So here Croker of the Black Company is playing cards with Goblin, One Eye, and Elmo. Goblin and One Eye are two wizards of the Black Company. Before Raven comes in and says that the captain wants to see Croker for a special mission. And so here we see some interaction between the different soldiers here, and it's pretty funny, as they go way over the top and just annoying each other with like a plague of flies and pigeons and things. But anyway, Croker goes to talk to the captain, and they talk a bit of some plot things about how the rebel is chasing them, and we have some like military talking about how they call it the rebel rather than the rebel army, right? As if it's a single thing personified. And Soulcatcher, the evil wizard that has hired them, has failed to provide them with reinforcements. And Croker is really upset about that and starts railing against it until the captain points out that Catcher is actually standing right behind him as a funny little finish to the scene. And here Croker addresses the audience, saying that it's a shame that he hasn't described what his expression is like, but he did want to die in that moment, but unfortunately he didn't.
Yeah, so I really did like this story. It was quite dialogue heavy, but I mean the dialogue that is being used very well to characterize that person that is talking. And I mean overall, I really do enjoy these prose. They are fairly simple, but they do a really good job at sort of pushing this story forward. And I mean, overall, I love this sort of world building that's being done here. I love these sort of naming conventions of these wizards, and like everything. So yeah, overall, I just really dug it.
Yeah, absolutely. As someone who has read the Black Company, I can say that it's pretty accurate, and I very much could see this with just some tweaks, fitting right in there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what I would point at to change it to be more like it. But yeah, it very much fits that like pretty direct tone that the Black Company does have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, all right. Thank you so much to Captain Rhino. And our last story for this week is by Nipotin with Vignette 1.
That is a hard word. So this is just a paragraph long, and it is very, very difficult to summarize.
I mean, really, overall, this story is showing more so of the prose than like anything else. This sort of style.
So it's describing a scene at a train station, people coming and going, and this scene of a city with neon lights and things that are very glaring and advertising a big and up and coming world and stuff, but never quite delivering on it. And it has this little gimmick, which gimmick is not necessarily said in a bad way, but it does describe what this does, where the paragraph can be read as restarting at the very end. You can finish the paragraph and start over at the very beginning, and it works as one sentence all the way through. So I thought that was really neat. And Nipotin talks about how they traced Hemingway, and so there was the emphasis here is like you said on that prose. Every phrase in here, I don't even want to say sentence because the whole thing is just like one sentence, but every phrase in here is catchy, and catchy is not the right word, but but it's poetic.
Striking,
it's poetic.
Yeah.
That's the word. Yeah, and complex and things like that. And I think it's really, really well done, and I think it's a wonderful exploration of writing in a poetic way. I only wish it was longer, but other than that, I mean, it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, I mean this little section is written really well. I mean, I love the form of this story for it having, I think, no periods whatsoever. The usage of these commas really does kind of break up this this paragraph of a text, and it does kind of allow the audience to sort of figure out how it is supposed to be read throughout. So I mean, overall, I just really dig it. I love this scene that is being made here, and like all of the different forms of sensory going in, and this sort of paragraph does a really good job at sort of showing the sort of chaos that is happening at this train station, while also having this sort of somber, slowish tone to it. So I mean, overall, I just really love it, and the only thing that I could wish for would be for it to be longer, because I really do like these prose so much. So really great job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so thank you so much to everyone who did submit a story this week. Y'all submitting these fantastic stories does our heart good. So we want to give a big old do the right thing shout out to everyone who did submit a story this week. So thank you very much to Words on the Wind.
Thank you to Sarah Penguin.
Thank you, Captain Rhino.
And thank you, Nipiton.
And also, we would like to say thank you to anyone who left 2 or more comments. Leaving comments not only allows you to understand more about what you wrote, but you are also providing someone else with crucial feedback that can only make them and you a better writer. So, thank you so much to Words on the Wind and Captain Rhino. Thank you so much for leaving comments.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
If you want to be like all of these wonderful writers and submit your story to Do the Right Thing, you can do that by going to /r/Do the Right Thing. All you have to do is sit down for 30 minutes and write a complete short story using 3 of 4 words from that week.
That's right. You can see the words as soon as they come out by following us on Twitter at RightThingCast or on our Discord as well. You can send us an email at rightthingcast@gmail.com and let us know whatever you want. You can say, hey, you can show us a really good meme. You can leave us in your will. I don't know, whatever you want.
Great. And of course, if you want to support us and everything else happening in Doof Media, you can do that by donating to the Doof Media Patreon. All you have to do is donate $10 or more per month to get access to the Doof Media Discord and exclusive bonus content.
That's right. We're going to be recording the Steins Gate Doof over this week.
Sure,
if everything
yes,
goes
we
well,
are.
so I'm
Yes,
excited
yes,
for that. And of course, there's so much else going on in Doof Media. You can go listen to What You Say, as it's probably going to take a pause after Scott and Elise have their baby, because they are pregnant. By they, I mean Elise, but also Scott's going to be a father, which is wild. Oh my goodness. So yeah, go listen and do a catch up before they go on hiatus because of that. But yeah, so much else. They're getting close to finishing their Del Toro was it describing directors? What's it called?
Dissecting directors.
Dissecting directors. That's correct. Thank you so much. Dissecting directors series on the Doofcast. They're almost done with Del Toro. I think they did Hellboy a bit ago. They just did Pan's Labyrinth. And they are going to finish off with the Shape of Water. So I'm excited to listen to all of those.
Ooh, yeah. Especially that last one.
Loves me some monster fish boy love. All right. That's all we have for y'all this week. What do we do now? We announce next week's work. I'm really tired. How does this podcast work? Can you remind me?
So we first say what we are going to be doing next week, which is do the edit thing, and then we announce next week's words. So I'll go ahead and do that. How am I going to fucking start this?
So next week, what's our special thing going on next week, Jarvis?
Thank you so much
for episode 95. What are we doing?
Yes, it is a fantastic episode 95, and for this very special episode, we will be doing the edit thing. So
hell yeah!
Next week, I am going to bring a story that I've already written on Do the Right Thing, and I am going to edit it and present it to y'all as if it was brand new. And the challenge for next week is for y'all wonderful listeners to do the exact same.
That's right. So we're going to announce the words at the end of this, and you can choose to either do a new story off of the words or to go back and do edit any old story that you've done. It could be for Do the Right Thing, it could be for something else. So long as it's in, Do the Right Thing, like length, right? No more than like 2,000-ish words, please. And submit it. My recommendation regarding editing is not just to go through and polish it up a little bit, but to actually start with a new blank document and write down the whole thing from scratch again. Not necessarily from scratch. You can have the old story, the old version open like in another tab, right?
Yeah.
And to like go through and match things up if you want. But definitely have the default as you're editing, not to keep things in, but to keep things out.
And also try not to have the other version up, and try not to copy and paste. Trust me, by doing that, you will come up with something that is similar. But the whole point of taking it through this process of editing is to recreate that magic, recreate that lining in a bottle, but have it more honed towards something that you would be more proud of.
Sure. Or instead of doing one or the other, of writing a new story or editing the old one, you could do both. In many different ways. You can edit an old story and then write a new one, or you could write a new story and then edit it. There's so many options here.
Endless options. But
that's right. So I'm really excited to see your story next week, Jarvis.
Mm-hmm. I am very excited too, but also before we get into what it's going to be about, we have to talk about next week's words, which are, if I can get a drum roll, please.
I
love it. So, next week's words are brand, merit, evoke, and offensive.
So a brand, which
name brand.
Actually, so let's actually go through it. So a brand is like a logo, an idea of like a company, right? A representation of that company, so that when you think of them, you also get these feelings. The word brand actually comes from the act of branding, like with a very hot piece of metal that's been decorated in different ways, a cow, right? As these old these ranches, right, to make sure that people knew that this cow was their cow, right? They would take this brand and then they would brand the cow with their brand, which had like a unique symbol on it. So that's where the word brand comes from. It's from branding. Isn't that wild?
Do you know what they used to brand before they branded cows?
I don't.
Horses.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I was setting up for a race joke, but I decided not to. I was like, I'm glad.
That's too far. I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Maybe
okay,
next time.
Next one is merit, which is something that I guess is justified. That justifies.
Yeah.
Like, does it merit an award? But you can also get a merit if you've like earned it, right?
And then,
I guess.
and then also talking about someone's merit, someone's worth,
exactly.
someone's
what makes them good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Evoke, which is to gosh, this is kind of hard to describe, huh? Right, it's to sort of bring out something else, or to sort of
to summon,
make something else happen, right?
Yeah.
Someone can evoke emotion in you, which is to cause that emotion in you, or you can evoke
the wrath,
flame,
by
using a lighter.
Yeah, sure.
And stuff. And then the last one is offensive, which is something that can be like emotionally hurtful, or it can be an offensive, as in like a military offensive, which is an aggressive act towards another
in
thing.
Sports, there is the offensive line in football.
That's right.
Nice.
So those are the words. Jarvis, in short, give me a short story. What are you going to write this next week?
Thank you. So, my next story is going to be a spin on Sausage Party, but it's going to have a lot more soul and a lot more merit. Basically, we will follow the life of a off-brand box of Raisin Bran. And, kind of going through what it means to, be off-brand. We will see the sort of discrimination that this box of cereal will be facing, the offensive things that the main brand will be saying about it, but by the very end, this box of cereal finds out that the best thing about their selves is that they are a off-brand, so they don't really have to live up to the sort of expectations that that the main brand does. So it evokes its own confidence and gets a sad fat man sick because Raisin Bran doesn't taste good.
That was really good, and I'm so glad you told that story. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. What story are you going to write next week?
I'm going to evoke some pain and astonishment and hurt in my audience through a story about an offensive man who was so edgy and stuff that he took to branding his skin with Can't Stump the Trump on his own skin, because he wanted to own the liberals, own the libs. He actually stamped his own skin with that brand, burned his own skin with a symbol of it was a drawing of Christ actually wearing Santa's hat and a big bag, just to make sure that people understand that Christmas is about Christ. And so he did that, and the reason it's going to evoke so much pain is that his actions merited him much fame and approval across the nation, that he became the next and last president of the United States.
Whoa. That sounds all too real to just be a story. But, I am very happy that you are deciding to make a villain your main character. I personally think it is very brave of you.
Thank you. I thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, same.
But tits. That's the podcast, folks. But that's it. That's what we got. That's what we got for y'all this week. Thanks for tuning in. That's the podcast. Oh, we need to get an anime outro. Yeah, and wait. So we have to end on a. No, that's the intro. The intro.